Thank you. I'll keep my remarks brief. My question is for Adrian Lemeni. Even though I disagreed with maybe a dozen things that you said where I think you misrepresent or misunderstand transhumanism, I'll just pick on one comment. You said it seemed terrible for transhumanists to want to overcome the limits of biological conditioning. This is a big criticism you made. But humans have used glasses. Many people in this room have got maybe artificial hips or pacemakers or glasses, or maybe people practice birth control. The average lifespan, thanks to humans, have moved up from less than 30 to more than 70. Is that so terrible that we humans have managed to overcome the limits of our biological conditioning? And if you don't think it's terrible, maybe you could take it out of your slides the next time you show it.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. And of course, it was not time to explain larger the perspective. I wanted to emphasize this approach regarding the illusion to substitute actually the body, to enhance a kind of virtual reality. For instance, the way of Ray Kurzweil, for instance, to give this illusion that the uploading mind on an external technical support is overpassing of that. Actually, is that, and is not life. Is that? Is only to preserve some informational sequences, and it was not. I didn't talk about kind devices or kind tools used in medicine, but about this illusion to replace the real life, the reality, with an illusion built in the logic of algorithms.
It's a really great question, and I think, sorry, I have to scoot over here. You didn't ask me, but I think this is kind of a crucial distinction in, and I'll speak for myself, Christian critics of posthumanism, transhumanism, is precisely we need to have an in-principle way of distinguishing between medicine that heals something that we presume is broken, so a disorder, so that we're trying to restore something, and the transformation or the replacement of the givenness of our body with some I'll put it, some fundamentally different sort of substrate, which requires, it's very hard to even conceptualize it, but if you just think in a Cartesian way, you just have this sort of soul, and it's stuck in this mortal coil, this body that breaks and dies, and we replace that, or we move it to a different substrate. Now, I know, of course, transhumanists don't think that way, but that's the sort of idea. So that medicine, which restores, and death, at least as we experience it as a result of the fall, there could be a restoration in which we live longer than we would otherwise. For instance, you mentioned in the last 2 centuries. That's a restoration, that's a proper activity from the thing that I think Adrian is critiquing, which is a replacement of the givenness of our body.
Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, the next question to the gentleman here. Yes.
Yes, my question is to the first speaker, is that, how do you actually apply the negative things that you were talking about in general public policy? What I mean is that, all that you were criticizing, so to speak, I mean, could seem to a general person who's not a believer, who has nothing to do with the church, as something inherently positive. I'll give you an explanation. For example, when communism replaced, or not replaced, but when they had a problem with the church in Soviet Russia, it didn't say, we're coming up here with a different ideology. Mm-hmm. It said, we have the same goals as you. We want immortality, we want prosperity, we want all these good things that the church was saying all the time. The difference is that we're going to use different means because you're not effective. This is what the communists said. They said, look at you, I mean, you're not fulfilling what you're saying. There's no immortality anywhere. There's no, equality. So I was just wondering, how do you explain in the United States especially, that, some of these things could be negative if there is an overall, policy of, I would call it political positivism in the United States and humanism, and everybody would just understand these things as a sort of natural development of these. What is the negative thing about that? How would you explain that?
So just so I understand, so you're talking about, in a public policy context, the question of the kind of transhumanist program?
Yeah. How would you explain that it has some negative,
Well, I don't know that, at least I'll just speak for myself, that there is a profound political opposition to, different aspects. You can sort of break these things apart. So, of course, let's say in genetic engineering, are we talking about activities that destroy intrinsically human embryos or not, right? So that's a sort of moral divide. But there's lots of stuff that's, of course, happening under the rubric of genetic engineering or nanotechnology or robotics that I don't think deals in any kind of intrinsic evil. And so it'd be a mistake to say, oh boy, Boston Dynamic, that robot's getting pretty good, we better make it illegal, or something like that. That would be, I think, a sort of bad response to this by failing to make distinctions. I happen actually just not to buy certain tacit metaphysical assumptions that I think are common among posthumanists. For instance, either kind of ultimately assuming that humans are machines, and so if we can make machines that do everything we can, then they sort of surpass us. I think it's actually a category mistake in that what will happen is that we will discover that, in fact, we can make some amazing machines as creatures made in the image of God, but they're never going to be like us in sort of crucial ways. So it's actually an empirical question. So I'm perfectly happy to say, look, robotics is fine within limits. It's another kind of technology. It's going to have some good and some bad like other technologies, but except in technological activities that are intrinsically evil, I think our instinct shouldn't be, let's sort of ban it. That's almost always a mistake, but really look at the details and distinguish actual technological achievements from metaphysical and kind of metaphorical spins on it, which promise things that I think just aren't going to happen. And that's why I'm thankful that Ray Kurzweil gives us dates, because at least younger people will be able to see, and I'll just make a prediction that Ray will be, if he's alive in 2043 or whatever the date is, like bad purveyors of biblical prophecy, which give dates, right? And then when the date passes, they move it. But that's a kind of, it has the virtue of being an empirical claim.
Thank you for the question. I think we have time for one more question. I think I had seen this hand first, so we'll go first. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. One question for Professor Adrian Lemeni. What do you think will be the technological or scientific limits of transhumanism? Thank you.
There are many structural limits, but fundamentally, the structural limit is about the analytical reason, about the logic of algorithms, because all of these promises are accomplished by the power of the technical logic. And of course, there are many results, of course, and it's important to develop a critical position concerning technology, departing from these extraordinary results. But in the same time, also it's essential to understand that structurally, the analytical reason is limited. And this is very important, including in science, not only in technology. Technology is the expression of the scientific approach, but including in science, Gödel and the others, genius scientific, they emphasized this structural limit of the scientific approach. And I spoke with some fathers today about the fact, it's a fact that there is not a strong scientific theory discovered only by analytical approach. It was a kind of vision to see something, to discover the deep reason of the reality, not to build. The algorithms, they are building. And when we are building in a formal way, we are very open to be attached by our approach and to be open to an illusion. When we are seeing the deep reason of the reality, we understand that there is a gift. It is not on my approach. We are not confident in my own powers, analytical powers. But, of course, there are many aspects which we could discuss, we could talk about this.